Hey everyone, welcome back to the stream. We're gonna do something a little different today. I thought I'd start up this first episode of this series of a vlog discussing particularly Magic the Gathering. So I have a long history with Magic. Then before anybody asks, no, I'm not stopping Crowfall. I didn't give up on Crowfall. One of the primary features of my channel is Crowfall. I do cover a lot of Crowfall channel, but we're kind of in an odd state right now. And I figured I'd take the opportunity to kind of fill in the downtime with what I have been doing outside of, video games and work, and including spending time with family, is Magic the Gathering. Paper versus online. I am actually competing again in Friday Night Magic, DCI sanctioned tournaments, at our local game shop, or LGS. Except this time, I am fortunate enough to bring my son to it, and he's actually into Magic. He's 11 years old, so I think I taught him when he was 9, or 8 or 9, I think. I taught him the basics. We played a little bit. Back before I bought my house and everything, we were in this little apartment. But I don't think it's stuck. He did pick up Pokemon. He went through the Pokemon phase of collecting and trading tons of Pokemon cards. He still has a binder full of just crazy foil, full art Pokemon. They look awesome. The cards look awesome, but my history with Pokemon have been only first edition Pokemon. So the first original 150 Pokemon on first edition, when they released it back in the late 90s, I think, or early 2000s. I can't remember exactly what year. But I had started playing Magic. Pokemon came along. I didn't stop playing, but I did build a Pokemon deck. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, that's kind of my earliest years of games, was actually trading card games. So I grew up with video games. Me and my brothers did, but we grew up in a poorer family. We didn't have a super beastly computer, and computers back then were expensive. And we were just lucky to have one shared family computer, which was supposed to be for homework, but you know how it is. 4 boys naturally played video games. But I don't know. I enjoyed playing video games, but it never really appealed to me the way trading card games did for some reason. I don't know. It just never really stuck. I would say the game that stuck the most would be Warcraft 2. And then we got really big into StarCraft and Brood War, and then, games like Civilization, and then that eventually rolled into, Dota, and Warcraft 3 mods, and eventually Dota 2, played that for the longest time. Meanwhile, pretty much from 5th grade to the end of high school, I played and competed. I played Magic. I want to say Ice Age. Fallen Empires or Ice Age, around there. We started playing Magic. But we didn't really compete until I was around my son's age, which would have been around 5th grade, 6th grade maybe. Then we started going to tournaments and started getting our butts whooped, handed to us, because, we were learning, we were kids. But it was fun, because it was, me and my brothers, my best friends, and it was great. I mean, even just, we didn't have net decks back then. We didn't have a good way, other than reading the magazines, I think, and getting the deck list from the magazines, but I don't even think that was a really good source of, timely materials, unless you were an adult subscribed to that magazine. I was a kid. I didn't have a magazine subscription back then. I didn't access the internet and the dial-up internet, AOL, and know to look for Magic the Gathering decks. I wasn't as resilient in terms of using the internet for resources. So we did a lot of homebrews. We did a lot of, you know, unique variants, and I want to say I didn't. I want to say I didn't. I have not built a net deck until, honestly, until maybe a couple of years ago. Or no, I'm sorry. It's like 3 years ago. I tried to get back, but anyways, yeah, I grew up just homebrewing some decks, and it was awesome. It was fun competing. I did pretty well for myself when I was a kid. Middle school, did really well. I mean, I didn't make a ton of money, but I mean, we competed, and we were competitive enough to place fairly consistently, either myself, my younger brother, and that's when that addiction kind of sank in. It was just kind of, you know, addicting. Winning is addicting. Winning is addicting. So, and we were just pretty good at it. Played it all the way through high school, and then I went to college, and then I just didn't have the money or the time to invest in Magic, so I took a break from Magic. I took a sabbatical, more or less like a 4 year break from Magic. Once I graduated, I think I tried to get back in, and I believe that was Kaladesh. Or no, I'm sorry. It was like Kamigawa. It was Kamigawa block. Well, it was originally Kamigawa block. I didn't like Kamigawa block at all. And then I tried to get back in at Kaladesh, I think. No. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong set. It wasn't. It was Khans. I'm sorry, it was Khans. Tried getting in. Tried net decking a combo Jeskai combo deck. I got smoked. I mean, I got my ass handed to me. I just went in to this Friday Night Magic DCI tournament. You know, signed up for DCI again. You know, I spent. I made the mistake of spending a couple $100, $200-300, just unwisely, just very inefficient spending. I decided to buy like a fat pack, a booster box, things like that. Just, you know, trying to build up a collection, card-based knowledge, and just not very efficient. I didn't know about. I wasn't very resourceful or resilient when it comes to using the internet to my advantage, right? So, you know, I just kind of looked up, oh, what are the current decks that people are playing in the meta? Oh, I like a combo deck. Why not play a combo deck? I got smoked so hard, and the majority of the decks were like, you know, Abzan mid-range or humans, I think was a big one. Various tribal decks, and it was just, yeah, it was just not good. I did not have a good time getting stomped, and I spent a good chunk of the tournament, and I will never forget this. I just didn't look up the cards. I didn't understand the meta. I didn't know what the cards in the set was. I just kind of rushed and just impulsively was just like, I'm gonna hop back in. How hard can it be, you know? I have a pretty good grasp of the mechanics, but not knowing the meta game and not knowing the base of cards in the set was just not good. It was just not good. I spent 75% of the tournament time, like legit total play time, reading cards because I didn't understand it, and that was a part of my downfall. So I swallowed that pill. That was really hard, you know, just down a couple $100, and you know, tucked away the Magic cards again. I was just like, yeah, I think I'm done. I think that's a sign that I should just be done with Magic, you know. Just, you know, I bought a pre-constructed deck, tried that out, played casually, but I know at the time, I think my brother had a pre-constructed deck, and we were just playing for fun, and so pre-constructed versus pre-constructed, and it was fine, and I had fun. But then, you know, we got older. I had a kid, bought a house, my brother bought a house. We, you know, just kind of adulting got in the way, right? And so we just stopped playing Magic. Now fast forward, you know, I think it was a winter night. I saw my Magic box, and it was, you know, my son at the time in the apartment, and, you know, he was reading through his Pokemon cards, and he was just kind of bored, like, I don't really play Pokemon, I just like reading them and looking, checking out the artwork, and I'm just like, oh, cool. I'm like, hey, well, I don't have a Pokemon deck, otherwise I'd teach you how to play, but I could teach you how to play Magic. And it was pretty interesting, because then he was just like, oh, okay, he was just kind of happy to play. So, you know, I dusted off some of my old decks, and fortunately I did save some of my old decks. I do had like a binder full of rares that are just gone, disappeared. Hopefully they're in my dad's house somewhere. I just have them tucked away somewhere. I don't know. I have to go look, but yeah, I don't know. Like, my whole collection was gone. I had these decks, and we dusted those off. I taught him the basic mechanics, you know, and it was fine. Like, we played, and it was fun, and he was a sore loser, as any 7, 8-year-old kid was, or 9, you know, 7 and 9-year-old. I can't remember. Let me think. He would have been 8. He would have been around 7 or 8 years old. So I was just like, oh, well, he's a sore loser. I don't, you know, like, I'm going to try to teach him this, but he wasn't very patient. He didn't comprehend any of the crazy mechanics, but he did, you know, we did teach him the basics. Laying down lands, drawing cards, going to the turn order, attacking with basic creatures. Just the basics, right? Just the basics. I believe we were playing like a mono red for him, or a mono green, I can't remember. So it was a very, very, very basic mono color deck, which is great. And I was playing a mono white. It was a little bit more control, a little bit more solid, but we were playing with our hands open, which is great. Highly recommend doing that if you're teaching your kids. Play with your hands open so you can teach them. No, that lasted for a good solid month, and then back to Pokemon. He lost interest. Now, anyways, before I bore you guys with my life story of Magic, fast forward to recently. What initially got me back into the rabbit hole was I started talking to my coworkers, and 90% of my coworkers apparently play Magic or have competed at some point, so they're pretty familiar with Magic. And so we decided, oh, Friday evenings at work we have this kind of social hour or team meetings. We're like, oh, it'd be great if we just started playing Commander. And we started playing, like, legit started borrowing Commander decks, and he started bringing them over and playing Commander. And so it was just kind of funny. Like, we were playing Commander, and it was just for fun, and then all of a sudden we decided, well, this could be a regular thing. So, you know, every Friday we just got in the habit of playing Commander, and then we would come, and it was fun because we played in a 4 or 5 man pod, and the Commander games would take like 2 hours long. And it was a good time, though. It was casual with some coworkers over some beers. It was great. It was just a good time. So after doing that, you know, I was just like, oh, well, let me go ahead, and I was borrowing my coworkers' EDH deck, and he had like, I mean, he had like 20 EDH decks. That's all that he had. That's all that he spent his time doing, was brewing up Commander decks just to play. And it was great because finally had people to play with again. It was bringing back memories. I was just like, oh man, you know, just, man, this is pretty crazy. And as I'm putting together my Commander deck, sleeving it up, getting a fancy case for it, it was just so fun. And I was, you know, like, invested, you know, $100-some into it. And my son just intrigued. He's just so fascinated. He's just like, oh wow, these are cool, man, we should play Magic again, because he saw my Commander deck. And I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll play. So I dusted off the deck box once again, and we're playing, and you know, at this point he's 10, 11 years old. So I'm driving home from work, and I noticed this game shop. It was a game shop. It wasn't advertised as a card shop. I go in and I immediately recognize card tables. I mean, you just know. It's not like a game shop like GameStop where you have shelves and racks of video games. It was legit, like a few racks of games. You know, they had their consoles and, you know, old vintage consoles and collectibles and stuff. But you get towards the back and it's just, you know, 10 plus tables, card tables. And I'm like, okay, they host card tournaments here. I recognize like a card shop. And sure enough, they had glass cases. On one side, Pokemon and various other trading card games. And then the next glass case was all Magic cards. And I'm just like, oh man, here we go, you know. Opened up this can and I'm just like, oh man, just nostalgia flooding back in. Talking to the card shop owner, and super nice guy, or card shop employee, I don't think it was the owner. Super nice people, just real friendly. They're like, yeah, you know, we do host Friday Night Magic. And I'm just like, oh, well, my son just wants to get back in. Maybe I'll bring him in and we'll see how it goes. So Friday night, first Friday night, I build this $75 budget deck. Red Green Energy in standard right now. I'm on Cat standard. Red Green Pummeler deck. Okay, super budget, but hearing good things, doing my research this time, reading on Tapped Out, reading on MTG Goldfish, you know, reading on TCG Player, checking out the deck lists, YouTubing videos, Grand Prix, Pro Tours, just understanding the meta, you know, just fascinated with the pro scene again. I go in, I feel pretty comfortable. I see, you know, I'm starting to see the meta, and, you know, the LGS that I play at, of course, it's like zombies, it's like Either Works Marvel, it's like Mardu vehicles, it's a handful of homebrew decks too, you know. I go in and I take 4th place, top 4, win the promo, my first night playing in years. My son's there. He thinks it's cool that I'm winning, you know, the promo, I'm winning the boosters, his prizes, and I'm having a blast. He's digging through the common box, and you know, like I gladly buy him the commons because it's, you know, what is it, $5 for 100 or something like that at RLGS. Awesome. And the kid comes out, he's got a stack of 100 cards. He comes out, he's all happy. He just, you know, I left him there while I was competing. He was sifting through the commons the whole time, just preoccupied. Not bored, not anything, you know. He had a soda, sucking down a soda, looking through commons. That's exactly what I was doing when I was his age. That's how I got into it. And, you know, I could tell just that look on him after he found all these Magic cards. He was just so fascinated, and he was just so... he was hooked. I mean, I could just tell he was hooked, and he had just built his own red deck, and, you know, he was excited to go home. And, you know, the following Saturday and Sunday, that's all we did. We sat around. You know, I have a little baby girl, my wife. She's not into Magic, you know, so she was just happy I got the kid out of the house. So there's something me and my son's doing, and it's great. So, yeah, anyhow, I'm pumped up. I just top 4, you know. I just took Final 4 at my first Friday Night Magic in years. Okay, and I was explaining to everybody there was just so nice, such a good sport. Shout out to my local LGS, by the way, Don Father Games, in Green Bay. Just awesome shop, just awesome people who run it there are amazing. They run a good fun tournament, and the people who go there are just great. I've played in some pretty serious, you know, DCI tournaments, qualifiers, things like that, but I mean, that's no fun for a kid. I mean, that's great if you're competing and you enjoy that highly competitive environment, and that's awesome. But the last time I brought my son to something like that, he was of course younger, and I got owned. I didn't have fun. He didn't get the game, so he wasn't really enjoying it. But he actually, the second time I went, I built another budget deck. This time it was a mono white tokens budget deck. I took I took second place with my tokens deck. I took second place, which was awesome. I was stoked about that. Got another, you know, foiled Ether Hub promo and won a few booster packs. It was great. You know, and this is a trend. It's the third time I go. You know, another. I'm starting to build black green constrictor. That one's a little bit more, so I'm kind of budgeting myself and kind of building it slowly and organically as I'm going, trying to figure out what variant I want to play or what changes I want to make. But last tournament I played, my son competed in his first Friday night tournament on his own. He wanted to. Excuse me, excuse my notifications. But he competed, and I had to warn him. I was just like, hey, you know, there's gonna be some serious competitors here. They're gonna be good players. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to get your feelings hurt. If you end up losing, you have to still be a good sport. You know, I'm trying to teach him sportsmanship and shaking hands and saying good game and all that stuff. He's 11, so I was kind of afraid for him, and I was just like, oh man, he's gonna have a horrible time. He's gonna get smoked. These people aren't gonna care. And it was actually almost the opposite. You know, he had an amazing time. He lost all 3 rounds, but he could have won 2 rounds. I was watching him, and he made some mental errors. I didn't correct him. You know, that's illegal. I didn't help him. I kind of let him lose on his own and let him learn from his mistakes, and everybody was just so supportive of him. Everybody was like, oh my god, you know, he's such a good player for being 11 years old. He knows the game mechanics fairly well, and he understands his deck and the cards, and it's great because we play at home, and I let him use my mono white tokens deck, and we play against my other homebrew decks, or we play, you know, he bought a set of dual decks and we play against each other, so he can understand the interactions and the synergies of a deck. But yeah, he lost all 3 rounds. He ended up winning the random promo, and he ended up getting some free cards because A, either some people felt bad, or B, some people were impressed, and they, you know, whether they open up a booster and they just didn't care for the rare, or they just got a bunch of uncommons and commons that they didn't care, they just gave him the extras, and he was just happy to get that, and he was just so pumped about it. And so he's excited. Tomorrow we have another FNM, and we're gonna go, and I think this time I'm gonna play my black green constrictor. We'll see. I don't expect to do crazy well, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how it is. If I don't play my mono white tokens, I'll play my black green constrictor deck. I just haven't had a chance to play test it as much. However, I think my son's going to be playing my mono white tokens deck again. I think he really likes that, so I'll let him play that again. We'll see. Yeah. Where was I going with that? Oh, which brings me to my topic. So I spent some time on and off just kind of brainstorming. Around this time, you know, they're doing spoilers for the Hour of Devastation set that's about to come out, and everyone's excited for it, and I'm preparing a deck based around a card that I saw. Okay, so I'm building my black-green constrictor deck for Amonkhet Standard, and I'm going to continue to refine that and perfect it the way I want to. It's actually technically black-green constrictor, but I think I'm going to sideboard options, right? I'm going to sideboard more of a mid-range or a control type game, and it'll be a black-green constrictor, traditional constrictor with planeswalkers and tireless trackers and such. I have options, which is what makes the deck so great. But I'm currently playing black-green aggro. It's definitely more aggressive, very proactive deck. So, anyways, deck that I've been brewing and that I'm proud of is the deck that you've been kind of staring at while I was on my rant. Alright, I created an account, I pulled the trigger. I never really post my ideas out there online. This is my very first time submitting a deck. It took some learning and some getting used to, but I think I've got the hang of it. I submitted my deck on Tapped Out. I'll include the link in the description below for those interested. I'll also include timestamps because this vlog is so long and I went on so many different tangents. I'll have to break it up into timestamps for you guys, okay? In case you guys are watching this on VOD. But anyways, let's start talking about this homebrew deck that I have from Hour of Devastation cards that are being announced as they're being announced. So this is, you know, obviously in my description, it's a work in progress. It's a prototype. Any comments, feedback are appreciated. And yeah, let's hop right into it. So first, let's kind of preface this deck. How did I even come up with this idea? Well, it's a mill deck, if you haven't guessed by the title of it. It's called A Million Curses. A million curses. Get it? It's kind of trying to create it. Anyways, it's A Million Curses, and it's revolved around this curse called Fraying Sanity that's coming out in Hour of Devastation. Okay, let me read the card for you, and then you can see how ridiculous this could get. Enchant player, at the beginning of each end step, enchanted player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of cards put into that graveyard from anywhere this turn. So let me read back the key phrases in this one. At the beginning of each end step, their end step and my end step. Doesn't matter which end step. At the beginning of each. Enchanted player, my opponent, who I will be enchanting, or you could theoretically enchant yourself if you really want to deck yourself for delirium and whatnot. Anyways, anytime a card goes into their graveyard, whether I counter it, whether I kill their creatures, whether they discard, they mill that much. You're like, oh, okay, whatever. Seems alright. Seems okay. Seems annoying. Now, you pair that up with spells like Compelling Argument, which nobody played in Amonkhet Standard. I shouldn't say nobody, but my local my LGS, that's just, there's no mono blue or blue-red control that mills. There's just none. It's just not efficient. It's too slow. This block is way too quick. So, Compelling Argument, put the top 5 cards for 2. 1 blue, 1 colorless, right? 2 CCM, you mill 5, whatever. Meh, right? Meh, by itself. Pair that up with Fraying Sanity, right? You mill 10, okay? You're like, oh, interesting. 10 cards, whoop-de-doo. Okay. Pair that up with Startled Awake. Turn 3, Fraying Sanity. Turn 4, Startled Awake. They put the top 13 cards into the library, okay? Now you're like, go on. 13, plus another 13 on top of that? Okay. I see where you're going with this. That's 26 cards. Wow. That's about half your deck already. Gone after, you know, the initial draw. Oops, excuse me. After the initial draw, that's about half your deck. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. What if you had multiple Fraying Sanities on your opponent? Right? How does that work? It works exactly how you think it's gonna work. It's exponential. In my mono white tokens deck, I have Anointed Procession. It doubles tokens. You drop another enchantment on top of that, it doubles the double, so it quadruples the token. It's exponential, which means power of 2 in this case, right? So, Example, I have 2 fraying sanities on my opponent. Okay, let's just take a nice round number like 5. I mill them for 5. First fraying sanity triggers. Okay. So you mill them for the 5 from compelling argument. First fraying sanity mills them for another 5. That doubled your mill, right? The second fraying sanity triggers, mills for 10 on top of that. A total of 10 plus 5 plus 5, that's 20. That's 5 times 4. Because double fraying sanities. That's 20. That's 20 cards milled for 2 mana. Okay. Whatever. Okay. Fair enough. How often are you going to get 2 fraying sanities on your opponent? Sure. This is a control deck. This is mono blue control. Okay. This isn't going to be a turn 4, turn 5 kill like my pummeler. Like I legit turn 4 killed somebody last tournament with my pummeler fling. It was awesome. But this is not that. This is the opposite. This is control. Okay, you've got your counter spells. You've got your bounces. Engulf the Shore just bounces everything. If you have all islands, it'll bounce up to 4 toughness on the board on turn 4. That's pretty beefy. Essence Scatter to counter creature spells. I rock 2 of those. It's going to be a lot of creature aggression in this block, so I'm using 2. Negate. I splash in 1. I do have more available in my sideboard, 3 of them, and 2 Essence Scatters if I want to, or an additional Essence Scatter if I want to. Revolutionary rebuff. Right now I have 2 in there. I wanted something quick. My mana curve is 2. I want something quick because this block is very, very quick. If I want it to be competitive and to win, I need it to be quick and responsive. Okay, I am considering taking, you know, one of these out and one of maybe my ministers or my manic scribes out for something like Glimmer of Geniuses. We'll talk about that in a second. But I have Supreme Will as a 3-drop instant, you know, because of the option. Counter unless they pay 3, or you sift the top 4, pick one, essentially, you know, put one in your hand and then put the rest in the bottom. So this is a good opportunity to kind of sift through your deck. And you're going to be like, oh, well, hey, why don't you choose another card that's 2 mana and it allows you to do the same? Because I want the option. I want the option to be able to counter their spells. If I have it in my hand, it's an option to counter a spell. Or at the end of their turn, I want to sift and put a card in my hand, set myself up for my combos. Cool, I can do that. Now, this deck isn't reliant on, you know, these 3 cards stacking on top of each other. That is the primary kill condition by milling. But you do still want to control, okay? Now, to offset that early aggression, to stave that off, you have your Minister of Inquiries, the 1-drop for a 1/2. The body itself is pretty good. It's a 1/2 and a 1-drop. It's a chump blocker at worst, you know, or it's a removal target at worst, a removal sponge like a, you know, Fatal Push or whatever, Grasp of Darkness if they want to. I get the 2 energies, that stays, you know, like that would work with other stuff that I have. Manic Scribes, a 2-drop for a 0/3 body. It's not the beefiest thing. It still dies to Harness Lightning, but it'll absorb some, you know, it'll absorb a Long Tusk Cub, it'll absorb things like Constrictor, it'll absorb a lot of 2-drops. Hell, it'll even absorb an Exerted Human. It would die, but you get it for the mill effect as it comes into play, and it's a body. Bonus, if you have Delirium, it behaves as a mill every turn. So it has that longevity, it has that late game presence that you want if you satisfy Delirium. Now, we're going to definitely have instances. We're going to definitely have sorceries. Enchantments, not so sure about. Possibly. If I do get a chance to discard it. This is where Champion of Wits comes into play. Draw 2, discard 2. Alright? I can eternalize it. That's not why I'm choosing it. The draw 2, discard 2 is great for 3 mana. It's a Delirium enabler, but it's also a 2/1 body. I think this is underestimated. I believe SBMTG, Strictly Better MTG, I think he mentioned that this is an underrated card. I tend to agree with him. It is underrated. You know, the fact that you're looting, you're double looting, you're drawing, and then discarding. I mean, that's a Delirium enabler right there. Not only that, you're getting a body. You know, force them to use some removal. Or you can sit there and be defensive, right? You're not gonna kill them with damage. You're just not. I don't have the deck set up for it. It's a 0/3 and a 1/2 and a 2/1. You just don't. If you look at it, I have 10 creatures in the deck. Gaia Reach Sanctum, I play 2, just to ensure that I get a copy. You know, worst case scenario is I hold one in my hand after I have one in play, and then I'm able to loot it out. I'm able to sift it or ditch it somehow. Each player draws a card, then discards a card, right? I can loot with this land and discard another legendary land. I believe it says 4 or more card types. So if I have, you know, I'll most likely have a creature if they do manage to get rid of it. Minister of Inquiries, you use it as a body, you're pretty much almost at Delirium anyways. But, you know, Champion of Wits, once you get that down, you're almost guaranteed to have Delirium, and it's not hard. You have 4 of these, or 2 of these Manic Scribes out, you're milling them. You know, you're milling them for 6 each turn. Okay, you have a Fraying Sanity on them with 2 Manic Scribes out. You're milling them for 12 each turn. They're not going to survive too long. You just have to survive. You know, and then if they get rid of your Manic Scribes, you have things to bounce back your Manic Scribes, right? To mill them even more. Or they focus your Manic Scribes down, and cool, you have a Fraying Sanity on them. You still have spells to mill them. You have ways to mill them. You know, I have lands that will literally mill them for 4 off the top. Per version. It's great. This is amazing. It's like an uncounterable. I shouldn't say uncounterable because you could have dismiss. Or disallow, I'm sorry, not dismiss, disallow. Can counter this triggered ability. I have cards that are specific to the local meta. I mean, just the meta in general. Like Mardu Vehicles is really strong still. You have, you know, Constrictor, which is pretty strong still. So either Steel Harvester can be activated, can be crewed through my Minister or my Champion. And it's also just a way to gain life back if I needed to stall. You know, it's very good for stalling, but it also is a Delirium enabler if I do have to loot it away, or if it dies somehow and they manage to get it in the grave or whatever. Mirage Mirror is the same way. Mirage Mirror is just so versatile. I don't know if this is going to stay 324. This is such a good artifact. Such a good artifact. I mean, at instant speed, you can make it a copy of a creature, an artifact, enchantment, or a land. That's insane. Copy Fraying Insanity? Yes, please. Go ahead and double, quadruple my mills. Yes, please. For colorless mana. Late game, I draw this up. I drop it. What are they going to do? I mean, if they have artifact removal, cool. But I don't think, you know, the main board I don't think they're gonna main board artifact removal when they have to worry about mill, right? I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do, but we'll see. Yeah, I can copy, you know, a creature, any one of their creatures that are pesky. I can copy an Either Sphere Harvester. I can copy any of the Mardu vehicles that just so happen to get crude. You know, I can sack it to kill a Heart of Kirin. I can make it a gigantic, you know, constrictor creature just to stall a little bit longer. I can make it a copy of my Fraying Insanity. I can make it a copy of, you know, whatever I need. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, the deck has a good balance of survivability with just bodies and just some stalling, things like Engulf, things like counter spells, enough for me to build up, you know, slow build up to the combo. But I don't think it's that slow if you look at my curve and how quick it goes. I think the one thing that I have to keep in mind and that I'm constantly, you know, looking at is the draw engine strong enough? I have cards that cycle, by the way. If I need to cycle, things like Censor, things like Compelling Argument. The primary goal is getting out Fraying Sanity if I can, or getting Manic Scribes to Delirium as quick as I can, just to have a kind of constant source of milling. A recurring source of milling is great. Champion of Wits is my draw source currently, right? Now it's not the most reliable because it can technically be countered, but hey, we've got that. I've got Supreme Will to kind of filter through. Like I said, I could have Glimmer of Genius added in there. But I also have Gaia Reach Sanitarium to loot as well. So we'll see. We will see if that's enough. I don't know if that'll be enough to draw. I may, like I mentioned earlier, I may take out one Revolutionary Rebuff and one Manic Scribe. Or one Minister of Inquiries. We'll see. So yeah, I might do one Minister of Inquiries and one Revolutionary Rebuff for maybe 2 Glimmer of Geniuses, just to make sure secure that I have, you know, a draw engine. My sideboard includes 2 Either Sphere Harvesters. That would make it 4 total if I need to play against Mardu, or if I'm playing against some highly aggressive aggro decks that I need to play a little bit more defensive for. I'll side those in and take out some of the slower cards. Like I may board out, who knows, some spells like a negate or a Supreme Will, something like that, for 2 Either Sphere Harvesters. Ceremonious Rejection is for Mardu vehicles. Crook of Condemnation, let me see if I have that up. So Crook of Condemnation is this one, and you can exile a card from a graveyard, or you can sack it and exile all cards from all graveyards at instant speed. And this is great for, you know, Delirium, Hate, if people are playing Greenback Delirium, which is really strong right now. People are, you know, doing some type of reanimations with Embalming and Eternalize. It's just generally good to have, and it's very versatile, and it's pretty cheap, and it's also a way to get an artifact in your Delirium, in your graveyard for Delirium yourself. So I think it has some value in there. I have 2 copies of that. I have another copy of Engulf the Shore just in case they're, you know, against tokens, things like zombies. It's just a little bit easier. That way I have a chance to Essence Scatter if I need to. Imprison the Moon is great. If they're playing more of a control, I'm looking at Greenback Constrictor. I'm looking at you know, enablers, larger creatures, even gods. It just basically makes it into a colorless land, which is hilarious. It's great. There's a lot of answers. It answers a lot of things. Kefnet's Last Word. Let's see. Kefnet's Last Word is 4 for essentially a control magic. Your lands don't untap, but you can control an artifact, a creature, or an enchantment. Just keeping that in mind. If you see something, this is kind of more of a versatile card. The versatility is why it's in the sideboard, in case I find some type of OP artifact that I need to disrupt or enchantment. For 4 mana, you lose a turn, but if it's a game changer, it's worth it. I only play 1 copy. I play 3 copies of Negate for, you know, like blue-red control, things like that. Just in general. Just to make sure that I'm able to get my spells off in case we do need to have a counter war, stuff like that. Maybe board, which is what I'm kind of considering right now, and I'll have to try it out before I know for sure. But cards like Confiscation Coup, because I do run energy in my deck. You know, I can gain control of target permanent, which is really important here. So whether I want to replace this with the Kefnet's Last Word, that I haven't decided yet. I don't know. Kefnet's Last Word is gives me the option for an enchantment as well, but this one costs an extra mana. I do get to use my mana the next turn, so I don't know. It's kind of a trade-off, right? We'll have to see. Glimmer of Genius, like I said, this is probably the one that I would swap in first before anything else. And then there was a suggestion down here, you know, a comment that said, your deck would be much stronger with the best blue card in Standard, Torrential Gearhulk. So I completely understand the value of Torrential Gearhulk. So Jose Lopez asks, why not run more deserts? So I did think about running more deserts. I actually thought about running the other Tapland desert, or there's another colorless desert that allows me to tap a creature for colorless. I honestly feel like the blue Tapland desert doesn't provide enough substantial value, other than being fodder for mill. The fact that it produces colorless land isn't going to be as valuable to me as the island that synergizes with Engulf. Not only that, islands come into play untapped. The other desert that I'm thinking about, if I can find it here, I think I know what you're talking about, but the other desert that I'm thinking about is the one that, here we go, we're looking at the deserts now. So Desert of the Mindful comes into play tap. I didn't want to play that. It does have cycling, but I just don't think for the efficiency of the mana that I don't think I need any more sources of milling. I think it's the primary reason. And I did give it some thought, and it's a good point, because I did consider, that's something I did consider before. But Survivor's Encampment was the one I was talking about. Adding a colorless mana, and this one is immediately accessible for mana, but I can tap an untapped creature to provide any mana of any color. Like I said, this would primarily be used as fodder. Fodder for, you know, the Ibnu. I just don't think milling or like milling sources is going to be an issue in the deck. I think surviving long enough to use your milling sources is definitely going to be the primary concern. So if you look at the top meta card or the meta decks in standard right now, at least in my local LGS, Mardu Vehicles took first last week. I was playing Red Green Pummeler. I think I took 6th. And then we had Red Black Aggro, which I think took 3rd. And then we had Black Green Delirium took 2nd. And I believe like Blue Red Control. Yeah, cycling the desert does give you some options. That's true. So that was also another consideration, right? I just don't know how... I guess that's true. I don't know how balanced my mana curve is going to be yet. I think having the land there as an option to cycle through is not a bad idea. Just to get the land in for Delirium, and also just to draw that additional card, that could be a value. Yeah, the deserts from Amonkhet, I don't know. I don't know if any of those will be as useful as well. I think the most useful one, you know, going back to your point of what I could, how it could kind of sift through my deck and help me accelerate to get to the combo pieces that I need. I think Desert of the Mindful is probably going to be one of the more useful ones. I did think about Endless Sands as one, just a way to reintroduce all my creatures back in to accelerate, or just to keep them safe. But I feel like Endless Sands is a little too slow for my liking. I could be wrong, I don't know. I might have to play with a proxy copy first to see if I can do a one-off. Scavenger Grounds. You have to excuse me because I need to read the oh yeah, okay. Duh, I know this one. This one's the Graveyard Hate. The only thing I did consider this, and maybe I'll consider it more, that it's a desert. The only thing I've considered, this is kind of a double-edged sword, is if I'm running or relying on Delirium for my scribes, I don't necessarily want to you know, exile my graveyard. I think that's kind of the drawback. I think with Crook of Condemnation, you can target specific cards, which is what I really like. So, you know, at instant speed, you can target, you know, their Planeswalker, you can target their Eternalize, because they internalize as a sorcery, right? So I think being able to target specific cards and having kind of that oh shit button to kind of blow up everything is great. But I think the primary use of that Crook of Condemnation and why it's so valuable is because it targets specifics. So you can exile target card from a graveyard, and this is great. I know that you have a land and it's free, but it kind of hurts you too if you're trying to get to Delirium. If you're not playing Delirium, then I would probably have to agree with you and say, yeah, it would probably be beneficial to have that in just as like mill fodder for your desert. But if you look at our deck here, and you can see, you know, you have how many sources for milling, right? So you have you have 6 copies of spells that are relatively affordable. I mean, Fraying Sanity is technically a mill enchantment. Anytime they cast a spell, anytime their creature dies, anytime we counter a spell, anytime we bounce and they discard, whatever it is, anytime they're looting, anytime they're fetching, anytime, you know, anytime they're really activating or sacrificing anything, they're losing cards through Freeing Sanity. Not only that, but I think also Manic Scribe is going to be milling. Minister of Inquiries is going to be milling if they leave it on the board. And then you have, you know, Gaia Reach is technically going to be, not milling, but looting them. And then you have Ipnu, which is going to be milling them. So, I mean, we do have a good amount. Yeah, we have a pretty good amount. Mirage Mirror can also duplicate any of my creatures that I need to activate milling or to accelerate milling, or even, you know, worst case scenario is I need to copy another Ipnu and then just sack it to mill the 4. It's an expensive copy, but I think, I don't know, I think I might actually add, let me see. Let me see. Yeah, Desert of the Mindful. I do kind of like that as an option. I guess I didn't give it enough consideration. The fact that it can cycle and it's a desert makes it kind of valuable, even if it's just mill fodder. So I think I like that. I'll add that into my maybe board for now. Shit, I forgot what it's called. Desert of the Mindful. There we go. So good call. I'll add that to the maybe board. I'll have to think about that and play test that a little bit more. Yeah, uncomfortable mills is definitely great. I think we're giving a lot of credit to blue-red control though. I think the top decks that you see in standard right now are they're just beatdowns, right? So I mean, like, I like uncounterable stuff too, but you look at the amount of counter spells even in blue-red control, and it's you know, maybe a little bit over a handful that they main board. Blue-red control is great because it's so versatile with creature removal because of the damage spells that they have. And it can be a pretty good, like, mid-range if they get their thing in the ice kind of thought out, and it just beats you. So I mean, that'll be an interesting one. I think I think I would consider putting Desert of the Mindful in just strictly for the... Yeah, this deck should theoretically stomp over red-blue. Yeah, I actually think it should be fine. I like the bounce. So with red-blue, I think waiting for their thing in the ice to trigger and bounce everything, and then waiting for them to cast it, or even before their trigger happens, you could engulf the shores and bounce back their thing in the ice before it flips. And that would be fine too, and that way you can actually negate it or essence scatter it when it comes back down. Or even worse is, you know, you could take control of it. If you theoretically want to take control of it, you could just take control of it after they bounce everything, and then you should just save your counter spells for that. But yeah, I don't see why this thing wouldn't be able to handle blue-red control too. So I've been thinking of the primary metas. I think blue-red control isn't at the top. I think Mardu Vehicles, with how quick and how consistent it is up there. Green-black Constrictor, with how consistent it is and how quick it can be, or just how brutal it can be. So I'm thinking of those cards right there that kind of just lock you down and play a mid-range type of game. Yeah, so for sure it's still a work in progress. We don't know all the cards that are in Hour of Devastation yet, but this is definitely, I think, a pretty decent start. I did get some really good, you know, feedback from everyone. Desert of the Mindful from you, Jose, earlier. Torrential Gear Hulk paired with Glimmer of Genius. That one's kind of in there. I don't know. I feel like Torrential... yeah, exactly. Oh, red, blue, and black, green. Yeah, for sure. We got a pretty good amount of homebrews. I did really well with red, green Pummeler because they were just not ready for it. I mean, Pummeler is so resourceful to Fatal Push unless they can get rid of something, but I play around Fatals pretty good with red, green Pummeler. Bristling Hydra just destroys, you know, black, green. If you're able to play around that and you're able to remove their stuff quick enough. Blue is the only color I have not played in Standard, so this is a change of pace. I haven't played blue since like Madness in Mirrodin Black or Blue-Black Control way back in Urza Saga. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've played blue. Blue's not my favorite color, but just the play style is so different for me. Like sitting back and controlling, I feel like I'm just being an asshole like the whole game, countering and bouncing everything up, and then worst of all, milling their deck. Right, that's a great way to win the game. So it is bound to piss some people off, but I think, you know, you look at the price of the deck and the value that you can get from it, and I just think it's fun. I think it's a very novel way to win. You don't see people milling in Standard. You look at the mana curve here, and it's like 40% 2 drops. Mana should not be a problem. I believe I'm playing 23. 23 lands. I mean, if I were to add in the cycling lands, that'd be great too. 23 lands is a pretty good number for considering, you know, I do have 4 drops, but it's a control deck, so you should be maintaining, you know, 5 to 6. 5 to 6 lands at any given point, right? Just for counter spells, and countering counters, things like that, just for countering control. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. TCG player, I have this at $40 right now. Obviously, we're missing a few cards. Kefnet's Last Word might be expensive. I don't know. The only cards I'm hoping, you know, Fraying Sanity should be fairly cheap. I don't see anything in here that could be overly expensive. This is, you know, Mirage Mirror could be. They have it at 324 right now. I don't know. Yeah, Disallow, I did consider it. Disallow is a little bit more expensive. So if I were to run, Disallow is 3 drop, right? Disallow 4 drop is I don't have, my 4 drop is Startled Awake, and that's pretty much it. Oh, Engulf the Shore and Startled Awake are the only 4 drops that I have. I mean, you have other activations that cost something, but that's about it. You know, if I were to add a 4 drop, it would be Glimmer of Genius. I would probably take off 1 Revolutionary Rebuff, and then I was thinking maybe 1 Minister. But I kind of like the Minister to activate as a 1 drop, and it also activates Ether Sphere. I actually consider taking out Manic Scribe because we already have tons of mill sources. Especially if I drop in the lands, take out 1 Manic Scribe, 1 Revolutionary Rebuff, and then throw in 2 Glimmers. That's a 4 drop that'll draw me 2 Scry 2. So it filters, it draws, and it provides energy for, you know, mill energy. But it also, you know, it also synergizes really well with Torrential Gear Hulk. If I wanted to wait and control, play a little bit more control-y. I think right now I'm playing very preventative, right? I'm playing very anti-aggro, very... I don't have a lot of anti-aggro removal. Yeah. Yeah, it is good for Temple. I mean, the draw engine is what I was kind of concerned about. I think being able to cycle a few things kind of give me some options, like being able to cycle Compelling Argument and being able to cycle Sensors are pretty good. They're, you know, they're 1 blue cyclings. But having the ability to maybe cycle maybe a land or so at the end of turn would be good. So and that gets the draw. That's technically a draw engine, right? So I mean, like I said, the biggest thing is getting out Fraying Sanities, because that's going to be your biggest stacks of milling. I mean, once you get 2 Fraying Sanities on them, it's pretty much a wrap. If you get 2 Fraying Sanities on a player, I mean, you could turn a Manic Scribe with Delirium into like a 2 or 3 clock kill. I mean, by the time you have 2 Fraying Sanities and 1 Manic Scribe with Delirium on, it's basically a 2-turn clock, right? Not including all your other mill sources. So, I mean, 1 Ipnu is gonna clock you 16 cards, or net you 16 cards off the top. And yeah, Manic Scribe's gonna net you, let's see, 3 plus 3 plus 6, right? 12, another 12 each turn. So you're at 24, and then you're also at another 16. Yeah, that's that's 40 cards right there. That's pretty much GG with 1 Ipnu and 1 Manic Scribe with 2 Fraying Sanities. That's not even including if you manage to get a Startled Awake off right after. But I don't see it being very hard to turn 3 Fraying Sanity, and then by the by the time you stall out at, you manage to draw up a Startling Awake at like turn 6, turn 7 with another Fraying Sanity on top of that. That's crazy. Yeah, to me, Fraying Sanity is just ridiculous. It's just a ridiculous, just the way it stacks, and just the way that it's just a persistent. But I think people are underestimating Fraying Sanity's ability to just discreetly mill. Whether they're, like how many sacrifice abilities, how many Delirium decks are going to be fetching cards into their own graveyard. The Cycling Wannabe Glimmer of Genius. What is it? It's the Amonkhet. Something hieroglyphics, right? The hieroglyphics? I know what you're talking about. Yeah, draw 2, cycle 1 blue, I think. I did. I don't know. I think Glimmer is stronger. Solely for the Scry 2. Yeah, I think Glimmer is stronger because Scry 2. I mean, I don't give a shit about the 2 energy. At this point, a 4-drop you're holding in your hand, you're gonna it should be of value. You should be using it. I would hate to cycle away a 4-drop that's that useful. Cycling keeps your mana count down. Yeah, I guess that's a trade-off. I don't know. I don't know how much the cycling's going to... I mean, if I had to weigh the 2, I'd look at it like this. Scry 2 over cycling. At the 4-cost slot, right? I mean, you draw it on opening hand. Is it going to be a dead card to you? Glimmer of Genius? Maybe. What is it? Hieroglyphics? You could cycle it, theoretically. It's kind of a horse apiece. I think it comes down to preference, really. I don't know that cycling is going to be a huge... Yeah, well, yeah, 4th turn. Yeah, assuming you have Startled Awake on your 4th drop, right? If you have... I play 3 in the deck. If you draw 1, then you're most likely playing that. If you have a Fraying Sanity, I don't know yet. To me, playing this deck, I don't think you should blow your load, unless you know that if you're playing against blue-black, obviously make the smart decision and play around the control. But I don't think you need to blow your load against a deck like blue or green-black Constrictor or Mardu Vehicles. Like, is turn 4 Startled Awake going to really win you the game on turn 4? I don't think so. Like, I think unless you had like a Fraying Sanity in a turn 4 start of the week, that would be awesome. But yeah, the cycling does give you an option. That's true. I also think though that like with the cycle, you essentially loot it, right? You essentially discard it to draw, and you don't know. It's like a scratch off. You don't know. No. You don't have to apologize for all the messages. It's cool. This is a good discussion to have. I appreciate it. So, to me, it's kind of a horse apiece. It really comes down to preference. You either like the flexibility of cycling, or you're gonna take the card at face value and take Glimmer for the scry, and then the draw. Right, the power of Glimmer isn't even the necessary energies. The getting the 2 energies is a cherry on top. The power of Glimmer is the fact that you scry 2. Out of the 2, you choose which ones are of value to you that you could keep on top, or place, or are not of value to you and place on the bottom, which indirectly provides value to you by getting rid of invaluable cards, like in your example, lands that you may not need or things that you may just cycle away anyways. However, if you like them, keep them on top. You still get the 2 cards that activate. I think it's kind of a horse apiece, but I think I know what you're saying. And I did look at that card, by the way. I did look at that as an option because I was like, okay, do I need a draw engine? And look at the mana curve. What can you fit in for 4? Is this too slow? I think Glimmer of Genius was awesome in like either works because it enables Marvel. Well, it enables Marvel and it gives you the card engine that you need to continue sustaining Marvel, right? With this one, it plays a little differently because we're not utilizing the energy as much. However, the Scry 2 and the Draw 2 is still so powerful for this deck. Now, Glimmer and Confiscation, that works really well together. However, Confiscation, I don't know how I feel about this yet. 5, I'd have to see. I think Confiscation Coup is pretty good for like Constrictor if they have 1 Beefcake up, but usually you just engulf the shores, or you just wait for a decent Essence Scatter, or you're able to hold them off with things like Imprisoned in the Moon. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's for a deck with 27 lands. Most likely to hit your 5th mana cycling to return startled. Let's see. Let me check the maybe board and let me see. Illuminated hieroglyphics, right? Hieroglyphic illumination. Couldn't even think of the name. Okay, so let's check this out. Draw 2 cards, cycle the 1. Draw 2 cards, cycle the 1. Cycle for 1.
You don't know me like you say you do. Will I run and find myself? Or will I bite the dust and stay with you? You can
I've run 23 in my tokens, and I have consistently been at around 4 and 5. But that's what I run mono white tokens. I run 23 in there with no cycle cards. Just plains and 2 Westwell Avies, I think. Yeah. And I never have an issue. My red-green pummeler runs 23 as well. And I would say that is... Yeah, I guess you're right. Consistently between 3 and 4. Yeah, consistently between 3 and 4. So if I throw in... Yeah, I think 23 gives you a pretty good like 3-4 curve, which is what I'm primarily running. I can survive on that. I hesitate to maybe bump that up to 4. If I do, for example, let's just say we put in 4 Desert of the Mindful, and then I take out 3 Islands, right? That puts us at 24, and then, you know, first card to go would be Revolutionary Rebuff, I think. Because I'm trying to think, I don't want to get rid of anything. You know, Revolutionary Rebuff would go first, then Manic Scribe, or Aether Sphere Harvester main board would go. Those are the 3. Yeah, so I would probably Revolutionary Rebuff, Aether Sphere Harvester, then Manic Scribe would go. So I technically have like 3 flex slots from my maybe board. You know, if we do 3 islands, put in the 4 deserts for the cycling capabilities, and then I would be able to plop in maybe for 1 Revolutionary Rebuff instead. Yep, and then get rid of maybe 1 Aether Sphere. Yeah, 1 Aether Sphere Harvester, and then pop in 2 Hieroglyphic Illuminations. Yeah, that would basically give us the cycling deserts if we want them, and the Hieroglyphic Illuminations. I suppose, yeah, you're right. Well, yeah, red-green has Attune with Ether. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. My mono white tokens. Yeah, my mono white tokens runs pretty smoothly, and they have 5 drops in there. 4, it curves out at 5. But you're right. I think maybe running the extra land in there, curve it out to 24 lands. Right, so let me curve this out. We're gonna take out 3 islands here. So we'll go down to 14. We're gonna add... Shit, what was that card? Desert of the Mindful. So I pop in 4 Desert of the Mindful, and I pop it in Illuminated, Hieroglyphic Illumination. Pop in 2 of them. And then I take out... 1 Revolutionary Rebuff, and I said, I think 1 Aether Sphere Harvester. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, so we've got 2 Hieroglyphic Illuminations now. We've rocking 24 lands, right? So we've got 10, 21, 21, 45, 55, 50. Am I missing something here? 17, 21, 45, 55, 58. I feel like I'm missing something. Did something get taken out? Let me see. Supreme Will, Revolutionary Rebuff, Negate. Or did I not have, like, Engulf the Shore? $34, $37, $41, $47, $58. I have extra 2 slots. Pop in my Either Sphere Harvester back, and then pop in my, maybe an additional sensor. What do you think? Yeah, I know, right? FML. Well, maybe it's a good thing. I have 2 now. I don't know if I like Confiscation Coup, to be honest with you, or Torrential Gearhulk. I feel like maybe it's a little slow. What do you think of Torrential Gearhulk? I don't know. I don't know if I like Torrential Gearhulk in here, obviously. I feel like I'm just being bougie if I just throw in Torrential Gearhulk. Okay, cool. Some dude's like, dude, add Torrential Gearhulk's the best blue card in Standard right now. I'm like, dude, I know he's good, but is it a 6-slot card option good? Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about not being able to hit 6 mana. I'll eventually hit 6 mana. It's just a matter of, will it provide enough value? You know, bringing back, what do I bring back? Well, I guess now that I have Hieroglyphic Illumination, I could essentially Torrential Gearhulk and draw 2, or Torrential Gearhulk and Engulf. That'd be hilarious as hell. Or Torrential Gear, you know, I'll probably have, it'd be funny because it would be like Torrential Gearhulk and Engulf everything for maybe 5 if I have a non-basic. There's a good chance I'll have a non-basic. With these cards out, I'll have at least 1 non-basic or 2. Yeah. Engulf, right? Engulf the Shore, if I have that. That's really the only thing is, you know, it's basically a 6 mana counter spell or a 6 mana draw 2 with a body. I don't know. My biggest gripe with that is, like, Torrential Gearhulk is great, but it doesn't... I guess it's like an alternative kill condition, maybe? But I feel like we have so much mill in the deck that I don't know if we need to really leverage a 6 mana alternative kill condition. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, that shit'll like double my... It'll double my budget. Torrential Gearhulk, 2 of them, drop them puppies in. $20. I don't know. Okay, let's think. 1 drop back in, 1 Either Sphere Harvester, and 1 Sensor, or 2 Torrential Gearhulks. Winds of Rebuke. I've heard of that card. I have Winds of Rebuke. What a block is that? Eh. Let's search it up. Let me see. I'm on cat. Yeah, okay, I did think about this. So I was thinking about this, and I was just like, man, this sounds pretty legit. If I'm trying to mill myself for whatever reason, you know, I mean, it's great because it returns, it bounces, and it mills. More importantly, it mills them. But then I was thinking, I was like, man, what if that backfires on me and I just completely fucking mill my, like, fraying sanity, or I mill my thing. And maybe I just, the fact that I can't control the mill is what kind of shies me away. I don't know. But I don't know if that's a legit... Yeah, it is both players, but I don't know if that's a legit, like, fear of me just completely, like... It would be a total me thing to do to just completely fuck myself over. With Winds of Rebuke. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Like getting a fraying sanity in there, or getting, like, you know, my Startled Awaken in there and being like, oh, let's wait to bring back Startled Awaken. And then bounce it back. It's good to stop PW. PWs. What is that? Ah. Sorry. I skipped the whole Planeswalker, like, era before I got back into Magic. So the acronym PW doesn't initially stand out. Obviously, I know what Planeswalkers are now. I'm pretty familiar, but... My deck does nothing versus Planeswalkers. Well, not main board. No. You're right. But Planeswalkers, I feel like... I don't know. Like, I don't feel like they're quick enough. Like, at least for game one, I don't think they're quick enough to cause me too much grief. You know, you look at the top ones in Green-Black Constrictor. What, Liliana? Make your plant tokens and buff your creatures. Sure, with Constrictor out, you're doubling the tokens. Maybe. Liliana, I mean, I guess if you get Liliana's ultimate off and they're just constantly pumping out zombies, in that case most people lose anyways. But I mean, what is she gonna do? Just keep disabling my creatures? My kill conditions aren't creatures, so I'm not worried about Liliana. Chandra is a good one. Chandra is the, you know, like, at the very least the one that produces the elementals, but at the very least the one that she's essentially giving them card advantage. But I don't think... I don't know. I don't necessarily think I need... I mean, I have enough counters to play around Planeswalkers, but... I mean, post-board, Imprison in the Moon takes care of Planeswalkers. Or Kefnet's Last Word. Or I guess not Kefnet's Last Word, but... yeah, I would probably pull in Negates and Imprison in the Moon for Planeswalkers. Well, Imprison in the Moon's the big one for Planeswalkers. It just nullifies them for post-board. But I think... yeah, I guess Winds of Rebuke would be fine. Winds of Rebuke, 2 of them in. That wouldn't be bad, actually, because... yeah, that wouldn't be bad in case I ever needed to bring back my Startled Awakes from my graveyard, right? I guess it works. It works. There's a duality to that card that I like for Winds of Rebuke. I think I like that, honestly, more as, like, options than Torrential Gearhulk. That's just me, though. Yeah, I think so. I don't know, I have 2 slots, and I don't know what else we could... Unless I take out a Revolutionary rebuff, play 2 Winds of Rebuke, 1 Torrential Gearhulk. Or two Torrential Gearhulks if I take out a Manic Scribe. Or a Minister. Yeah, I think I'm gonna... What's my maybe board? Winds of Rebuke. Add 2 here. Let's take this out. Take this out. And Desert. So I have 2 Winds of Rebuke. Winds can time walk opponent if they play on curve. Yeah. Well, card, you know, like, I mean, the biggest beatdown decks here, Mardu Vehicles and Green Black Constrictor, they all heavily rely on curve, right? You know how shitty it would be if you have like a Cub swinging in and it's about to pump to like a 4/4 or a 6/6 and you decide to rebuke it back up to your hand on curve like turn 3? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I put in 2 torrentials. 2 torrentials. I need to take out 2. I think I'm going to get rid of the Revolutionary rebuff, to be honest with you. Because we've got the Winds of Rebuke in there for the 2 curve. And then I need to take out, free up 1 slot, and I'm thinking either the Minister or the Manic Scribe. Nah, man. Manic Scribe too juicy. Oh. I looked at Baral too. I did look at Baral, but I don't know about him. I don't know about Baral. No room. I did look at Baral because he makes everything slightly cheaper. But he's so flimsy, man. Let's see what this freaking this deck like slowly evolving. That's great. Torrential Gearhulk. Let's see the cost of this thing. It was 38. Dude, it literally 2 Torrential Gearhulks literally doubled my budget. And that's not even including the Hour of Devastation cards in here. I don't imagine these are going to be very expensive. But you can either do 2 Torrential Gearhulks in this deck to make it a little bit, slightly bit stronger, or if you wanted to do budget and do without Torrential Gearhulks, play the Barals instead. Eats a removal spell for your more consistent millers. Baral. Whenever a circuit encounters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. Instant or Cersei says one last. I guess that's true. Baral is pretty... I guess he's not as fucking flimsy as I thought he would be. You know, he's a 1/3. He survives a fucking Magma Spray. He fucking still eats it to harness lightning, but... God, then there's... so much, like, 3 damage spells too. I guess he does eat a removal. He still gets fucking rocked by Fatal Push and Grasp. I'll think about that one. If I were to rock the 2 Barals, and I feel like the 2 Barals and the Torrential Gearhulks are kind of interchangeable. Right? At this point, honestly, with the whole synergy of the whole deck, yeah, like the Barals might be a really good... Maybe the Barals would be a really good, like, game 1 main board, and then the Torrentials would be in your sideboard. Nah, that would be a really fucking expensive sideboard. I'd be retarded if I had Torrentials and I didn't main board them. Third turn startled, yeah. Fuck that. Third turn would third turn would be so stupid, yeah. Hey, imagine if you like Barald. Oh man, that would be ridiculous. Yeah, that'd be crazy. Third turn startled. If you dropped, or multiple, like you dropped like a Fraying Sanity third turn with like a compelling argument too, and you have the Fraying Sanity on top of them, or you drop a Fraying Sanity on top and leave one up for a counter the next turn, and you could just go off on turn 4 or 5. Yeah, you can back up Sanity. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Turn 4. Turn 3, you could back up Sanity. Turn 2 Baral. Turn 3, you'd have enough for Fraying Sanity and any of your two cost bouncer counters. Really, and then you get a draw and discard for Baral. You may, or you have to. You may draw a card if you do discard a card. Okay. Yeah. You're okay. You're right. Yeah, it doesn't reduce enchantment. Good call. Good call on that one. Yeah, that'd be some shit. I really wanted to play like 4 copies of Startled Awake. I just need to kind of fine tune what I want. I may putz around with maybe 1 copy of Baral instead of the 2 Torrentials, and then 4 Startled Awake. No, 2 Barals. Yeah, 3. I think this is good. Yeah, I think this is good. This is good. Torrential Gearhulks could be pretty flexible slot for the Baral if you wanted to play the Baral. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I think we're good. I think we're good for today. Long ass VOD that I did. Huh. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for subbing, man. I will try to do more of these in the future. It took me a good chunk of the day. I work at my desk, and I just got really excited at Fraying Sanity. I just think this is an absolutely nutty card. I don't see a lot of other homebrew ones. I think the only other one that everybody think of is Cat Tribal. That one's gonna be interesting. But I did think of another deck that they had that I almost thought about homebrewing and not building it on paper yet, but they have the horse, right? Crested Sunmare. And I was just thinking, Crested Sunmare, you can play a mono white control or tokens. Because if you drop, for example, what's that one white enchantment that your opponent's creatures come into play tapped and you can gain life every time they play? That enchantment for 1 white stacked with Crested Sunmare, essentially every time they, like every turn that they're playing a creature, it comes into play tap, but you're getting a Crested Sunmare. If you drop 2 Crested Sunmares on there, you could even go ahead and wait for Hour of Revelation to go online and destroy all non-land permanents. But since all your horses are indestructible, it's basically destroying all permanents except for your horses. Yeah, it's pretty nutty, and especially with three mana to destroy all that stuff, you're still coming in pretty hefty. And if you're able to stall long enough and you need to, Oketra's Last Mercy is plenty once you have the horse down and you have that kind of lockdown. If you're low on life against aggro, you could definitely stall for a little bit longer. But I was just kind of thinking that there's plenty of board wipes like Fumigate and stuff that's still legal to gain new life and to also clear the board. If you had 2 Crested Sunmares, or you even have the mirror that duplicates your Sunmare to make all horses indestructible, essentially, that mirror is going to be nutty, because you could do the mirror and then you could do Anointed Possession, and if you essentially make all your horses indestructible, you could essentially flicker the Anointed Possession token. That way you're getting 4 horse tokens that are indestructible, and then you flicker it back to the Crested Sunmare to make everything destructible again. That's just, I mean, like, that to me is crazy. Like, mono white control in standard is gonna be interesting to me. I don't know. You could even do like a mono white, yeah, like Always Watching with humans with Exert. They're just Thraben Inspectors. Yeah, double horse by copy, or even just hard casting it. If you play the mirror, I think that's why I have 2 copies of the mirror in my deck, because I could literally copy the curse. Yeah, so you copy the Anointed Possession, and then you double up, you quadruple your tokens, and that's pretty much lethal. And then you copy your horse back, make everything destructible, and you just destroy all online permanents. Swing with your horses that came into play on their turn. That's pretty much lethal on their turn, assuming they casted a creature spell of some sort, which this block is creature spells, unless you're playing mill. But yeah, I think that'll be the next kind of homebrew that I think I'll start to put together. That would be a really cool mono white control. And assuming that these don't, I mean, this is a mythic. I don't know how much this is going to cost, because I don't think people are going to, I don't know how people are going to look at this as like completely viable, or even like Okatra's Last Mercy. I don't know how viable they'll think, or Hour of Revelation. But if they actually look at combinations of this, Anointed Procession, paired up with Hour of Revelation, oh man, that's gonna be nuts. Just wiping the board and swinging in with your horses. That's gonna be so stupid, but awesome at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be sweet. Players can't get counters. That's pretty good too against Constrictor right there that just owns Constrictor. Yeah. Okatra's gonna be a $1 rare. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. I would main board 2 of those just to have a jank, mono white jank. Yeah, the Crested Sunmare is playable. 5 for 5/5 body. That has passive ability, passive token generator. Yeah, I would say that's playable. I mean, even if you're gaining life off of some stupid thing like Anointed Priest, something like that, or your enchantment that gives you a life every time their creature comes into play, you're getting, I think it's at the beginning of your upkeep, right? Or at the end of, how does that work? At the beginning of each end step, everybody's end step. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty rad. Yeah, that'll be my next deck. I think I'm gonna focus on like fine-tuning this mono blue control, getting that. I mean, you could probably purchase everything including Baral for 40-some bucks, man. And then on top of the Hour of Devastation blue mill cards that I know people aren't gonna spend money on, you got yourself a $50 budget deck, excluding the Torrential Gearhawks, that can be very fun to play, I think. And then the next one, mono white, would be pretty cool too. So awesome. Thanks, dude, for swinging through. I'm gonna probably call it a night. Get some sleep. I gotta get up early and head to the office tomorrow. Open up the office. So thanks for stopping in, man. I appreciate the conversations. It's pretty sweet. And you had a lot of really good feedback, man. Yeah, you had a lot of really good feedback. Kind of really helped me out with fine-tuning this deck and making some really valid points for some cycling. And hopefully I can get it in my hand. And if anything, I'll just proxy the Hour of Devastation cards that I don't have. Because all the other cards I can actually... Yeah, I can actually just print these out. Proxy a couple of the Torrential Gearhawks or the Barals. The Barals I could probably just straight up order if I really wanted to. But yeah, there's really only 6 cards in here that I'll need to proxy. Yeah, I will post, definitely let you know. With the homebrew, it'll probably be some casual games, and we'll see how it goes. I'll test it. I like to test out my homebrews with my son. He usually plays my mono white tokens, which is a pretty consistent turn 5, turn 6 clock on a mono white tokens deck, which is pretty damn nutty. Either that or I'll have him play my green black Constrictor. Yeah, I will definitely link the deck to you. Thanks a lot, Jose, man. Peace out, dude. I'll catch you next time.